Hey guys, welcome back to the Ghost and Friends YouTube channel. Got Gage Sheets with me here. Gage, how are we doing today, sir?
Very
Tonight,
good.
rather. It's pretty
Yeah.
late. Yeah, a lot to talk about here. Recapping week 6 of we're going to talk a little bit of all of college football, but mostly in the SEC here because it was a lot more entertaining weekend than what many people thought it would be. So first and foremost, we'll build up to the hype. Shout out Nash, Texas, always first here, first in the comments every time. Appreciate you, Nash. A&M and Missouri, the 11 o'clock kickoff. A beatdown from the jump. Gage, what were your thoughts as you watched A&M take it to Missouri? And I think we might have different takes at the end of this one, but I'm very curious to hear what you have to say here.
I think that Missouri was overrated, but that was a beatdown. And I mean, like, I'm not going to take any credit away from A&M because they did everything that they were supposed to do against a team that they were clearly better than. Um, yeah, it was a beatdown, man. A&M bullied them. Missouri didn't have much of a chance. The weird thing was is that Missouri, like, mentally, it felt like they mentally shut off, like, as soon as the couple calls went wrong. It went A&M's way, and then it just seemed like they were like, "Nah, we don't want to play today." But yeah, A&M dominated them, man, and I was impressed. I was impressed with A&M. I put out my top 25. I was like, man, A&M might be the 10th best team in the country, maybe even better at this point. After 1 and 2, who knows? But yeah, I was impressed by A&M. I really looking at their schedule. As much as they want to talk about our schedule, they probably have an even easier schedule. They don't really face anybody for the rest of the season, so it might come down to being in College Station with a lot more on the line than we thought at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, definitely agree with a lot of what you said there, Gage. Great point here, Math. That offense, man, like you returned a lot of pieces. I know you got some new players on the left side of that offensive line. Very important to have those guys gel together. Obviously, up against a really good A&M front seven from the jump, man. One call there after Mizzou kind of got going on the opening drive. You have the one call. That's a PI in my opinion, but like if that happens at the very end of the game, you're down a field goal, you're down 7, you're driving, and that happens, obviously, people's reaction would probably be a little bit different to all the complaining about calls. But you have 4 quarters to show up and play a football game. And it just kind of looked like they quit, mentally checked out, tapped out, whatever you want to say, which is really, really surprising because Drink and Missouri have been in a lot of close games the last 2 years, found ways to win close games. It's weird to see them struggle on offense the way they are. Luther Burden obviously very frustrated, very upset. Brady Cook didn't back up the comments that he made, whether he was really trying to stir up the hornet's nest or not. But going 13 of 31 for sub 200 yards, man, like that's going to be really tough. That crowd's going to be on you, and so I was shocked. I mean, I really was. I thought Mizzou would have a little bit of fight. I definitely anticipated A&M coming out and playing really well. The last time you had a big home game with Elko, they lost. All the Mizzou comments. Obviously, A&M's kind of hot. They'd won, 4 in a row. And so not surprised to see A&M win the game. Definitely surprised to see it play out that way. So looking at that game, looking at A&M, have to ask the age-old question, was that more about Missouri being bad, Gage, or more about A&M being pretty good?
Don't kill me in the comments here, but I think it has a lot to do with A&M being good. I think that defensive. I mean, I've been on their defensive line the entire time, man. It was good seeing them lose week 1. I think the questions were around the quarterback position more than anywhere, but the defensive line was. I mean, Missouri didn't stand a chance against that defensive line the entire time, but we knew the talent was there on the defense. I mean, they've got in my opinion, an NFL first round draft pick at defensive end there, and Nick Scourton. So. I think the other surprising part was, I wouldn't say surprising, but just how well A&M ran the ball. Like, it was so easy, and it set Wegman up to make easier throws. Like, it wasn't like the Notre Dame game where they were kind of struggling a little bit, and then he had to make throws. Like, he was they would run the ball right down Missouri's throat, and then it was easy for Wegman from there. So yeah, I was impressed all the way around with Texas A&M. I know that we're probably not going to have differing opinions on this, so this makes it kind of boring. But uh, yeah, I'm not going to say anything bad about A&M. Like, yeah, of course, I think Missouri is overrated, but and they're probably going to lose multiple games from here on out. But I don't think that it had a lot. I think it had more to do with A&M being good than a lot of Texas fans want to admit.
Yeah, I think we can agree with you there. I mean, it's just you have to give credit where it's due. I mean, they outgamed on 5-12 to 254. That is extremely dominant. Missouri once again held 186 pass yards. A&M ran the ball for over 230 yards. Mizzou ran for 68. Like, you just have to call it what it is. Like, they went BTA on them. And yeah, Connor Wigman had a field day. I think he's shown that Notre Dame game is oh, Nash. I think he's shown that Notre Dame game was an outlier. That's not who he is. He was pretty hot last year when he played. And so, yeah, I think that there are the realistic Texas fans out there that can call it how it is, be a little realistic, and admit that A&M looks pretty good, and that if they continue to trend that way, yeah, that late November game could have a ton at stake and might not be near as easy as Texas fans wished it were. But long ways to go. Long ways to go. But yeah, like you said earlier, Gage, I mean, you look at A&M's schedule, LSU at home. LSU better find a way to stop the run somehow, some way. And
They still don't have a defense. Yeah.
they don't have a defense. Run fits are terrible. A little bit undisciplined with the run fits, and so I mean, if they don't figure something out, because A&M's defense is good enough to give that LSU offense some issues, I think. I mean, I don't see A&M losing that game. Not right now, the way things stand. Connor looked a lot, and it's just one game this year where he's come out against a good opponent and looked good. So hey, he still has to go ahead and do that on a week in, week out basis. But it helps a little bit when you have the schedule they do, because you have LSU at home, who is very manageable, and then this probably their second most difficult game before Texas is at South Carolina. Who, as Lenore Sellers gets a little more healthy, hopefully he does, that game could be a little more competitive than some might think. But what did CeeDee Lamb do, Nash? I missed it. I had to miss that one. But, yeah, it's going to be tough, man. A&M's going to win. It looks like right now, at minimum, 9 regular season games. They're not going to slip up at both LSU or at home versus LSU and at South Carolina, not in my opinion. And so, yeah, it's going to make things pretty interesting come Thanksgiving Day weekend, or Thanksgiving weekend for sure. Any parting thoughts on Missouri or A&M before we move on, Gage?
I think the big thing to watch with A&M is just how much the offensive line continues to improve. If you're an Aggie fan, of course, you have to be a little bit happy. You have to be really happy with their performance last week. But when we were asked, like, when we were talking about this game, I was looking at the statistics, and Missouri's pass rush just wasn't very good, and neither would it didn't seem like their front seven was like super. They weren't Notre Dame-ish, right? Like that. It didn't seem like they had guys up there, and I haven't watched much Missouri football other than the end of the Vanderbilt game, so I couldn't really tell. But yeah, I think the A&M offensive line's a lot better, but it could have been just kind of a fluke of Missouri not being very good up front defensively. We'll see. Like that's going to be the test. But like we were talking about, the schedule's very favorable to A&M to be able to continue to improve on the offensive line. And it's not how you start the season; it's how you end the season. And by the time Texas rolls into College Station, they're going to have a lot of time and a lot of game together, assuming no injuries, to really get that offensive line cored up. So I mean, it's going to be they're looking good. They're looking like they're getting better. So we'll see what happens. But I think the offensive line was the most impressive. That was one of the more impressive things to me. So.
No, that's a good point, because you kind of know what you're getting out of their defensive line. Even their front seven and secondary looks pretty good. Will Lee is playing really good over there at the first cornerback spot. Yeah, man, if their offensive line continues to develop, then they're going to be a playoff team, because that defense is really good. I think Connor's good enough. The receivers are sneaky good. Amari Daniels, Le'Veon Moss they've looked pretty dang good as well. So definitely a good weekend for A&M fans. I'm sure that woke up a lot of people that might have been skeptical about how the season would go. They're definitely feeling pretty good. I was There was a lot of fun being had on Twitter yesterday. I received some fun DMs with just some Aggies were more more optimistic than they were last weekend. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But all right, man, we'll get off that one for a minute. There's two other massive games to talk about. But before we do that, did you get to watch much of or any of Ole Miss taking care of South Carolina?
No, I didn't really watch much of that game. Obviously, there was other afternoon games that were on at the time. But yeah, I had South Carolina. I don't know, like every team in SEC from week to week is like it's just strange, man. Like there's no consistency with anybody, and yeah, I was a little bit shocked to see. But I mean, Ole Miss, I guess they had a rebound game. They've got the talent. We know they've got the talent. It's all about putting it together. But yeah, I mean, South Carolina. I thought like I changed my pick last second because when I saw Sellers was actually going to play, I was like,
Yeah,
okay, South Carolina might have a chance here to at least keep it within 9.5 points. And man, was I wrong on that? So yeah, South Carolina, man, that whole South Carolina Kentucky Ole Miss situation is just the weirdest thing. South Carolina blows Kentucky out. Kentucky goes and beats Ole Miss, and then Ole Miss beats South Carolina down. It's like that, but that's the story of the season so far, especially
yeah.
in the SEC.
Everybody matches up differently, Ole Miss. I mean, they honestly they dominated South Carolina every bit as much as A&M dominated Missouri. It's just that they fumbled on the 1 yard line. Juice Wells trying to score against a former team on a big play, but yeah, no. Jackson Dart looked really, really good. Lenoris didn't really ever get comfortable. Credit the Ole Miss defense for that. Walter Nolan, ex Aggie, he had a field day with the South Carolina offensive line, made some really big plays. That dude is a crazy good athlete. So, yeah, I'll admit, I mean, I thought South Carolina had a chance to win that game outright. I really did as soon as Lenoris got announced. And definitely wrong on that one. Ole Miss proved a lot of doubters wrong. Obviously, they're coming off an embarrassing loss for them, and their expectations at home to Kentucky answered the bell a little bit. Lane Kiffin, it seems like, he took a break from TikToks and whatnot and coached the boys up. But I'm just kidding. I love Lane Kiffin. Yeah, so the South Carolina loss or dominating win over Kentucky, it just gets
I think
weirder by the
I
second,
think
man.
that one's the outlier. Like the more I'm looking at it, is like that was the outlier was the Kentucky South Carolina game. Like Kentucky just didn't show up in
No,
South
they
Carolina.
didn't. No,
Yeah, I
Brock
think
Vandergrift
that's
was
more the outlier.
terrible.
Yeah.
Brock Vandergrift was terrible. Lenore Sellers played really, really well. Kentucky gave up a few big plays, but I mean, South Carolina's defense won that game. Multiple turnovers. They had a defensive touchdown. And this is something I was going to bring up to you, Gage. Missouri off a bye looked awful. South Carolina off a bye looked just as bad. And you're playing at home, and you're coming off a game against LSU that many people think you should have won. And they laid a complete egg against Ole Miss. I was really shocked. I really was. I thought that Shane Beamer and the boys, which to be honest, Beamer puts them in a little bit of a hole. Ole Miss opens the game, drives down, gets their touchdown. Shane Beamer runs a fake punt on the first possession for South Carolina. It backfires, sets up Dart and Ole Miss with a short field. They capitalize. I think it might have just been with 3, but either way, it cost them points. Way behind the 8 ball from the jump, and just they never recovered. Kind of shell shocked by the reps there, but that's not why most people are here. They don't want to talk about Ole Miss and South Carolina. Down into the afternoon slate. Did you think I gave out on my prediction show or the gambling segment we do? I gave that on Wednesday. Vanderbilt plus 23. I said, I thought Alabama would win that game somewhere in the 10 to 14 point range. Vanderbilt wins outright. What were your thoughts? I know we talked a little bit as that was going on. Yeah. Talk about the Commodores taking down the Tide, brother.
It's why I love college football. It's one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time. Obviously, I've been a big Diego guy. Since he beat New Mexico or since he beat Auburn with New Mexico State last year. I'm trying to get the nickname Albuquerque Twinkler to stick. If you don't know that story, you should look it up.
Yep.
But Diego's
Only
my
adds to
guy.
the legend.
Yeah, hard nose. He's a hard nosed dude. He you can tell that he just wants to win, and so I kind of like I was kind of the same feeling as you, is like they would keep it within 23 points, but I just didn't know how their defense was going to be able to keep up. But the game plan was just good, and they were able to execute it. Like they were able to keep Alabama's defense which did not look good. Obviously, they looked horrible in the second half against Georgia, and then they looked really bad for 4 quarters against Vanderbilt. So, but on that side of it, like Vanderbilt just did a really good job of controlling the clock and controlling the pace of the game. And we kind of talked about it was like kind of what Mississippi State tried to do to Texas the first half of the game. They just don't have the same guys. Like they're these smaller teams like that. That's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to control the game, the clock, and they're going to try to control the momentum and the tempo of the game. And Vanderbilt did that really well, and they have a quarterback that's able to do that really well. And so that was it was pretty cool to see, man. Like there was for a long time, I was like, oh, man, was going to come back, and then they would make a big play. The Ryan Williams catch down the sideline. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
now it's over. But man, those guys just kept coming back and fighting, and that was the coolest thing to see. I think about the upset wasn't like most teams where they would have just folded. Like, nah, Alabama threw a punch and they threw one back, man, and that was one of the cooler upsets that I've ever seen. So.
absolutely, man. You brought up some great points there. Before we talk about some of those points, imagine a world where even just 2 seasons ago, where you would have said that Vanderbilt wins the time of possession against Alabama 42 minutes to 18 minutes, where they outrushed them 166 to 84, almost 2-1 there, just off by a couple of yards. 9 more first downs than Alabama, outgained them in total yards, only punt twice. There's just no way I would have believed that in any shape, form, or fashion if you told me that a couple of years ago. Obviously, Vanderbilt's improved, but 2 years ago, someone tells me, even last year, someone tells me that. I'm not buying that. Not one time, not for anything. You couldn't have sold me that. And so, definitely one of the cooler upsets. Shout out Gage. He's been on the Diego Pavia fan bus for a lot longer than most. The prediction show that we did in the very beginning of the year, he was talked about. And so that guy he's balling, man. You talked about playing turnover-free football there, which was a big deal. Jalen Milroe made the one mistake, very, very costly one on the pick six early in that game. When Vanderbilt scores early, it's like, oh, this is cool. This is fun. It's 7-0. Okay. Well, then a pick six happens, and you're like, okay, all right. And it's still then, not to me, it didn't feel like there was a chance Vanderbilt won the game. It gave me a little reason to watch and to tune in. And Benjamin makes a good point. Here. I think Alabama's defense just might not be great, not taking anything from Vandy, but the only way Vandy was going to win was to keep putting up points, and they did. Alabama's secondary has some major question marks. I think that's pretty clear. They did a pretty good job in the run game. I mean, Diego got them a couple times off, on the edge. But, man, that secondary is struggling. You look back last week in the second half about what Carson Beck did, and then now this week and Diego P. ripping them up a little bit. I mean, this is not a Nick Saban secondary littered with, and these guys might play in the NFL. Just inexperience, going to need more time, and definitely the overall weak point of the Alabama team right now is that back end. And so hard to believe it's a reality. Vanderbilt right there trolling Nick Saban, rushing the field on Alabama just 7 days after Alabama takes down Georgia and what it was one of the more epic games. But now that win will forever be a little bit stained because people are just going to say, oh, the great game, great finish, great environment. You went to Nashville the next week and lost to Vanderbilt. So not good point though, Benjamin. You don't want to take anything from Vandy. That's not what we're doing. They played fantastic. But that is a big time letdown for Alabama and definitely shakes things up in the SEC. Gage, do you think Tide's still going to be a playoff team? You've got some tough games coming up, but at the same time, those tough games coming up for them, those teams have taken some tough losses too in the last week. Talking about Tennessee, talking about Ole Miss.
I am interested in speaking of the whole Nick Saban not being there. I'm interested to see how this team responds because under Nick Saban, even in a close game, like we know how they're going to respond. They're usually going to respond with vengeance. But this isn't Nick Saban. This is Kalen DeBoer, and like I'm not taking anything away from Kalen. I will never say anything bad about him because it's burnt me a couple times now. So I won't say anything bad about him. He's a great coach, and I'm interested to see on how Alabama responds. Like I think that's the thing. Like they kind of got pushed around a little bit against Vanderbilt. Like it wasn't like I get the point of like they had to score points, but they also, they didn't need to the control of the clock. Like they were able to punish, and it was kind of a physical game a little bit. So it,
Yeah.
it it was strange. It was a strange upset. It wasn't like the high flying offenses coming in and that we're used to seeing Alabama get upset by. So it was a little bit different, man. There were some good play calls and stuff, but like, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to think of Alabama right now. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Uh, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to respond, and maybe they do respond like old times, but and until we see that, I'm not going to say that for sure.
No, that's more than fair. I mean, we had the recap last Sunday night with SEC Unfiltered, and Cole Thompson and I kind of talked about last week being Ole Miss's Tim Tebow moment. That Kentucky was being theirs. That they won a game, and that could Ole Miss use that to find a way and create some momentum, change the attitude of the team going forward. Maybe that's it for Alabama. That's a loss that obviously I think it'll catch a lot of attention as far as when Coach DeBoer is trying to get these guys effort and attention and practice, a little higher. I think that's a good one. As far as this win being more shocking than App State and 07, I remember watching that game. I remember the blocked field goal, Armani Edwards. I don't think so, man. Vandy was just we could see it, with Virginia, and not saying
Yeah,
that beating Virginia Tech meant everything, but we could see with the Virginia Tech win, with them playing Missouri close, like you could tell they're a little bit better, and they were definitely Clark Lee knew what he was doing with this group. That's a really good question though, because that's really really shocking. Gage, we're gonna have to talk about this because it's very important. We're seeing it on the timeline. Um, I'm tired of seeing it on the timeline. Texas losing to Kansas, Vandy losing to Vandy beating Alabama.
I did
Which
predict
which was worse?
that. I think that. Oh man, I don't know. I think this Vanderbilt team's a little bit better than the Kansas team, but that Texas team is at least, yeah, they weren't nearly as good as this Alabama team was. So I think I'm gonna I'm gonna say the Vanderbilt upset was in my mind a little more surprising. Number one team in the country, like this hasn't happened. I think the last time Vanderbilt beat them was 1984. Like Texas had been struggling for a while at that point. And what was that, like our sixth straight loss or something that season? I can't even remember at this point.
Fifth.
Fifth straight loss. Like
Wait,
you could see it reeling. Um, and Jalen Daniels was kind of coming on the scene at that time, even though he's struggled this season, but he was kind of coming on the scene at that time. Yeah, the culture shift, like this is that season was the culture shift that we were seeing start. Like you still had all these old players. Like it was just a weird season. If you go back, like I don't care that Kansas was a 30-point underdog. Like the point spread, people were bringing up the point spread. That doesn't matter to me. Like the point spread doesn't matter because when you look back, like that Texas team and that Kansas team, even going into the next season, Kansas was a lot better. So yeah, I would say this one was more shocking. But yeah, I don't really. I'm trying to stay away from that conversation because obviously I have Homer feelings about it as well. So
no doubt. Tomorrow night will be really fun. We've got Rob Behrens and Colin Lang
yeah,
coming on. We'll address that one as well. Let me just say I agree with you about the point spreads. I think that's silly. I've tried to wait until tomorrow to really get into that because those two both obviously commented on it on Twitter. But yeah, the point spread thing is dumb. Why the hell were we 28 points, 28 6-point favorites over anybody that year? We're
yeah,
coming off, that was our fifth straight loss. We're coming off 4 straight losses, I think. And we had no Bijan Robinson in that game. I can't remember who else was hurt. Casey Thompson was hurt, as I believe Hudson Card played that game. We had a lot of injuries, and I'm not saying that's an excuse to lose to Kansas. I'm just saying Jalen Miller started for Alabama. Justice Haynes played tailback. Like Ryan Williams was on the field.
yeah. Team was a lot. The Alabama team's a lot more talented. The talent gap between Like that Alabama team, this Alabama team, in my opinion, would beat the brakes off that Texas team. And so,
Absolutely. I
yeah,
mean, especially if you're talking about the way things were going at that point and
yeah,
the lack of momentum that we had whatsoever. We couldn't stop anyone on defense. And so there just wasn't a lot of belief around the program at that point. Maybe there was, but I mean, just things weren't working out on the field. Tough losing streak for sure. Can't wait to talk about that one tomorrow night. I agree, Mav. I think Vandy is the worst loss. Saban saying that earlier this year, and then about it not being difficult to play in Vanderbilt, and then them beating them is quite
and there
just
probably was more Alabama fans. Like they did I saw the picture of the overview, like, and that guy telling the Alabama fans scoreboard, and you can see, dude, that sideline was it was complete Alabama fans. Like it was
there's
like the same
definitely
place. Like,
more
yeah.
red.
So I
Yeah.
mean, he technically wasn't wrong. It's just you can't lose that game. I mean, he's not the coach anymore, so but still.
I can imagine like Friday night in Nashville, all the Tide fans are out having just a grand time, and they're like never even suspecting what is looming for them the next afternoon in Diego Pavia, and it's beautiful, man. What a scene though. I think I shed a tear for Vanderbilt. Just like maybe my eye was watering. I don't know. It was a cool moment. Good for them. Good for college football to see things like that. Um, Rory kept yapping at me about playing some flag football or college football, and I was like, dude, I just need 5 minutes of silence. I need to soak this in because I think Lane Kiffin said in his interview, he's like, we're never going to see this again. And so I wanted to soak that all in. It was a cool moment. Good for the Commodores, good for the SEC. It's shaking things up, though. Let's go to the last game of the day, Gage. We're going to talk about. I said it on the timeline yesterday. I said it all week. I thought Arkansas had a chance to play Tennessee very close. I did not say out loud that I thought Tennessee could actually lose that game, but I really liked the Hogs' chance to play them a close game. They lost to A&M by 4 in Dallas. They lost a turnover battle 3-0 in that game. Probably still could have and should have won the game with the 3-0 turn. I won't say should have. There are a few Aggies in here, but probably still could have won the game with the -3 turnover differential. I just wasn't convinced that Nico could go beat a big time opponent on the road with his arm. I know that they smoked North Carolina State early in the year. Nico didn't have to do much. I know they smoked Oklahoma, basically ran the clock out the second half. Hey, they just had the chew clock mode on from College Football 25, basically taking a knee, just inside zone on giving. They let up on OU. Okay, Nico didn't have to do anything. I wasn't a believer. I'm not saying he won't be a fantastic. I'm not saying he can't win a Heisman. But from what I had seen, I had doubts that he'd go in there and run through the Arkansas defense. And obviously, he struggled a little bit. 16 of 28, 156 yards. Basically, Tennessee came out after half. They had the huge run, and then they had a penalty-aided next drive that ended up in 7 points as well. And outside of that, they didn't do much. Were you shocked to see Arkansas take down Tennessee, Gage?
I I think I wouldn't have been surprised if what took place didn't happen. I think
Right.
there was no way I thought, oh, Vanderbilt did it and Tennessee's going to get beat.
Yep.
But like going back to it, even before the Oklahoma game, we were talking about like who is Nico? Like, yeah, they had the North Carolina State game where he made a couple mistakes, but North Carolina State just found a way to shoot themselves in the foot even more. And now looking back, like North Carolina State is not good. So, but then you look at even the Oklahoma game, and it was like the Oklahoma. I mean, they were the definition of shooting themselves in the foot, right? Like every time they got a fumble at the 5 yard line. Nico fumbled the ball at like the 5 yard line. Oklahoma gets the ball, and they turn it over the next play. And so it was like I just Oklahoma didn't play good even to their standards, which I don't think they're that good of a team. I think they're good. I don't think they're great. So I think that Oklahoma even should have stayed closer in that game if they didn't have a quarterback who was a Butterfingers. Um, but yeah, Arkansas, like they played well with A&M, and I kind of thought again that was going back to like maybe I don't know, the SEC's been weird this year, so but we kind of talked about it the other week too. Like Arkansas is a little bit better than everybody thinks they are. I think everybody's kind of been impressed in every game Arkansas has played. They've been like, oh, this team's competitive. This team isn't a team that's just going to lay down like Florida. or Mississippi State that's just not very good. That's just talent wise. Like, no, they're physical. They come to play. They come ready to play. They're well coached. Um, but then again, like Arkansas should have beat the brakes off of Tennessee. Like their red zone was not very good. I was like, I thought they were gonna lose that game purely because I was like, they don't deserve to win because they had so
Right.
many opportunities and they just kept blowing it. And then the quarterback gets hurt. Oh, what's his name? Jalen
Taylor
Green.
Green.
Taylor Green gets hurt. And the next 2-3 drives for Arkansas looks horrible. They can't even snap the ball without getting a penalty. So I was like, Tennessee's going to sneak away. But yeah, I agree with you. Like Nico's just he didn't look that good again. He didn't really look that good in the Oklahoma game. He didn't look that good in the NC State game. Like he's looked good against really inferior competition, and Tennessee's won the game. But he's got a little bit of a turnover issue, and he's missed a couple throws. He missed a guy down the sideline that was open. By 5-10 yards, kind of overthrew him. So I think that he's got some maturing and some growing to do, and I think that all the talent's there. But it'll be interesting to see how Tennessee handles. I think that they play Alabama in a couple weeks. If I'm not
Yep.
wrong, I don't know where that game's at, but if they have to go
That's
to Tuscaloosa, like that's going to be rough. Like I don't know where that game's at exactly, but
it's going to be in Knoxville, and that's the same day Texas has Georgia, and so that'll be the game, the 3 o'clock game, or 2:30 or 3, or the I guess
yeah,
6:30 or
we
7. So
we got the 6:30 game. Well, let's see what happens this weekend. I guess.
let's
I'll,
say
I'll,
can't
I'll,
can't
I'll
can't rule anything out after this last weekend, man.
yeah, I'll be quiet. But yeah, I mean, makes it a little bit cooler for us if it gets to that point because I definitely thought it was going to be Tennessee and Alabama that got the night game and we were going to get stuck with the afternoon game, and now all of a sudden it's changed.
Yeah, man, a lot is happening around us, and like I'm not saying like Nico can't be the guy. It's not even that he's playing bad. It's just that he's not doing anything exceptional, and
Yeah,
there's so much hype around him. Obviously, we're a little biased in this, but like I did my top 5 SEC quarterback list the other day, had Quinn and Arch on there, and I wanted to put Arch ahead of Nico, and I thought people were going to just pile on me, and I was like, you know what, I'll just have Arch right behind him, and maybe I am just being biased, but I'm telling you right now, I love what we've seen out of Arch. I think that down the line, that'll be a fun conversation to have for sure. But again, Nico can get it done. He's got a lot of skill, a lot of talent. Um, we'll see because they're going to need him to beat an Alabama. They're going to need him to beat a Georgia.
yeah,
Those are big time games coming up for the Vols, and so you can't sit around and feel sorry for yourself for losing to Arkansas. I mean, that was an incredible atmosphere in Fayetteville.
yeah,
They really, really brought it. So hats off to the Hogs. And kind of like you mentioned earlier, that fourth quarter for Arkansas looked really, really bad on offense, except for one drive. But their
yeah,
defense shut Tennessee out in that quarter,
yeah,
set up good field position there on that last drive, gave Arkansas a chance. Malachi Singleton with a big touchdown run gave them a chance, man. And so
yeah,
definitely a cool win, an impressive win. I hate that it makes A&M's resume look slightly better because now we got to hear about all that crap on Twitter. But it is what it is. And so definitely a good day if you're a Texas A&M Aggie, if you're a Texas Longhorn, hell, even an Oklahoma Sooner, because, I mean, you didn't play and you didn't lose. A&M got themselves a nice win. Let me ask you this, man. I know that, you like Texas as far as the overall SEC goes. Give me your 2 top teams behind Texas. It's not as easy as it was 2 weeks ago.
no. Um,
Same here, Maverick. I really thought it was over, and that, like Gage said, Arkansas blew their chance. But go ahead, brother.
oh man, I guess Georgia. I mean, they played really really bad in the first half. Like Carson Beck did not look good. Um, Speaking of SEC quarterbacks, it all of a sudden looks like you know Jalen Milroe had that great performance against Georgia, and now it looks like Quinn's the best quarterback in the SEC again. Like it's so crazy how much it changes in a couple weeks. Uh, I would say Georgia. I guess Georgia. I still think Alabama's a really good team.
Yeah,
I'm not doubting them. I think A&M's put themselves up there. I think their defense is too good to sleep on them, and as long as Wegman doesn't either get hurt or make too many turnovers, like they're gonna be a good team. Like that's kind of what A&M like. it depends on Wegman. I think we said it at the beginning of the year, like, can he stay healthy? And all the A&M fans were like, oh, he's only had 2 injuries, and then what happens? He gets hurt the first game of the year. So can he stay healthy for the rest of the season? And while he's healthy, can he make sure to not turn the ball over? We'll see. My boy from Bridgeland, Texas. Let's see if he can. He needs to stop with the accent, man. I don't understand what's going on, but
I mean, like he's got to be like milking it a little, right? Like
yeah, there's
he's
no
got
way.
to be leaning into it.
I don't
So
think I've ever met from anybody that lives in Bridgeland or that Cypress area that talks like that.
So I want to say, like, I liked the kid in high school. I mean, I watched the clips, I saw interviews, all the highlights. I mean, I don't think it sounded like that. Could be wrong. Could be wrong.
He's not a 5-star. He wasn't a 5-star quarterback because he's a bum. Like, he's a good quarterback. He's got the talent, but it's a confidence thing. It's an injury thing. Like, can he just keep it going and keep it working from what that, and then can A&M keep running the ball too, like the offensive line? Like I said, can he keep improving, or was it just kind of like a false signal of like Missouri just defensive line is just not that good? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see with A&M, but I think that they definitely, I mean, that was a dominant performance. I think that they've jolted themselves into at least be involved in that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like, I don't think there's anyone that's going to give them a lot of competition. Maybe, like I said, maybe LSU, maybe South Carolina, maybe not going to be Auburn. It won't be Auburn. I would be shocked if A&M upset Auburn, but yeah, I think that's fair. Texas, Georgia, Maverick. I can't say this. Like I do like our chances. I'm not going to say without any doubt, man, because we still have Oklahoma, we still have Georgia. A lot to learn about Texas. Do I think Texas is?
After last week, like, I think everybody's a little bit humbled. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, there's a lot of people that were talking. Like, I was watching last week and I was like, oh no, like, this is bad. Like, I'm way more nervous going forward just because the chaos factor. Like, you start getting nervous. Like, but I do also believe in what Sark has built. I believe in the culture that Sark has. I believe in Quinn to keep the team grounded. So I still believe in this team. I think that they are the most talented, but it's like, are they going to have that letdown factor? I don't know. I believe in the culture that's been built there. So I think even with Georgia, like, we've had culture fit questions over the
No,
last like
absolutely.
2 years. But I don't see that as a question in Texas right now, other than OU and A&M message boards. So yeah.
It definitely. I mean, I think that anybody out there that's, I mean, being realistic about the SEC, I mean, you kind of be hard pressed to call to say anyone other than Texas is the most complete team.
Yeah.
We've been really good in the secondary. Been really good against the run. So they have a busted run fit versus UTSA. And then offensively, offensive line stout. Running back room is obviously banged up, but there's still some very, very nice assets there. Wide receiver room, tight end. I mean, quarterbacks, obviously, you go down the whole board. And then you talk about Alabama, you look at the secondary being a bit of an issue. And now here's the thing about Texas, though. We haven't been tested by a quarterback, man. Like, you gotta be real. Like, Van Buren, good kid, not gonna test us with his arm. Any of the Michigan quarterbacks we saw obviously didn't test us.
Yeah.
And so, well, you talk about Oklahoma. You talk about Michael Hawkins. Is he the guy that is the first test for Texas? I sure hope not. I'm sure hoping we make him look the way Texas has, made other guys look. Carson Beck probably will be, the biggest test that we'll see before we have Diego. But coming into the year, man, like, I don't know many Texas fans who are like, dang, that Vanderbilt game could actually be weird. A lot of trolls and haters and people that wish we were in the mud still definitely said, like, oh, yeah, y'all might lose to Vanderbilt. But now all of a sudden, man, that game gets a lot more interesting. And so we really haven't been tested at quarterback against a quality quarterback yet. But it's coming, man, because Beck's a good player. Diego's a good player. And then, Taylor Green, Arkansas coming up right after that, like that's, or not right after. Sorry, we have Florida before. But even if that's DJ Lagway, that's a guy with a crazy amount of skills. And so I can't answer and say without any doubt, like, honestly say, yeah, I think Texas is the best team, because I still think it's a little bit too early. But like Gage said, trust Sark, love what we're building or what we have. I definitely think that we have an argument to be in the most complete team. But man, there's some damn good teams in the SEC, even though a few of them already suffered some losses. I mean, it's a lot of talent. There's going to be some parity, man. There really, really is. And like Gage also said, I'm hoping that people realize, hey, a loss can sneak up on you. It doesn't mean you can't go win a national championship, because I guarantee you that Georgia fans aren't thinking that right now. Alabama fans aren't thinking that right now. And that is where, we're in
Alabama
this.
fans might be. I think they're in full panic.
I mean,
give it a week. They'll win next week. I think they play South Carolina. They'll win next week, and they'll feel better. They'll be like, oh, okay, we're back on track.
yeah, they're out there, buddy. We know they're out there, Mav. They're everywhere. I would love to tell you that I haven't always been realistic. Or that I've always been realistic, but that'd be furthest thing from the truth. I grew up in the golden age of Texas football, not the golden age, but the 2000s were a lot of fun, man. And that's
Yeah.
how I felt every Saturday, was that no matter what, we'd find a way. And so, yeah, I definitely I think the SEC is going to be a ton of fun. I think it's pretty much wide open race right now. And until Texas gets through Oklahoma and Georgia unscathed, it's hard to say, we're a lock to make the SEC championship game. Got to go win those two games. Then I'll start talking with my chest a little bit more about the Horns' chances.
Yeah, I think this weekend is a test mentally on what this team's made of. A lot of people are, obviously it's a rivalry, and I'm going to talk my trash, and they're going to talk their trash, and it's going to be a fun week. But at the same time, like, this game means a lot this year, and this is the best team that we've had in 14, 15 years at least, and so they've got to win this game. Like, I don't really think it's much of a question that they need to go in and win. I don't care if it's by 1 point. Texas needs to win this weekend, and I think this is in Oklahoma. I mean, they're going to be revved up, man. Are you kidding me? They get number one Texas, and everybody thinks that Oklahoma is just done for and they're melted, which I don't agree with at all. I'm still very nervous about their defense and the way they force turnovers. I think they're top 10 in the country still, even after the bye week in turnovers forced. And Quinn's coming back from an injury, and we've seen him have kind of slow starts in games where he's come back, or slow starts in big games. Period. We've had a couple times where he's started slow. So, yeah, I'm extremely nervous for this weekend. But this is a must-win game for this program. Like, you can't go lose in Dallas this weekend. I think it would be a major disappointment. I don't care about the 14.5 or whatever the stupid spread is. 14.5 is ridiculous for a rivalry game, especially for Texas Oklahoma. But yeah, they have to win this game. Like, it's not even about this year's team. Like, it's about the program moving forward too. Like, we cannot continue to lose to Oklahoma.
Absolutely, man. It's Sarkisian can't go to 1-3 versus the Sooners when you've had the better team, for sure. In 3 of those years in 2021, you have the 1 year I'm not guaranteeing we had the better team. You blow a 3-touchdown lead. And so
Yeah.
I think I fully agree with you when you talk about it being a must-win game for Texas, for Quinn. If you lose this game, you talk about having Georgia immediately having to get back up after getting knocked down by Oklahoma, hypothetically, and being ready for Georgia. And then you have Diego. And then you have Florida. I'm going to start calling them a bye week. I'm ready to be
Don't do that, please. That's why I have no idea.
I already disrespected them pretty hard yesterday on the timeline, but
yeah,
but then
they're just not very good. But
no, but then at Arkansas, at A&M. So yeah, you lose the Oklahoma game and all the playoff guarantees, the Atlanta travel plans that some might have made. It gets dicey, man. And of course, neither one of us want that to happen. Hoping Texas absolutely blows Oklahoma's backs out and takes them to the woodshed for 4 hours, a la 2022, because that was a lot of fun to watch. And so it's a must win. It really is. I don't care if it's by 1, by 100, win the game, stay healthy while doing it, and then we get ready for Georgia. But can't wait to do predictions for this all week. We've got 2 shows coming on tomorrow. Got a couple of Sooner fans joining at 7. Kyle, Rob, and Travis coming on at 8. I've got a couple other Oklahoma guests lined up throughout the week. So ready to talk a lot of Texas, Oklahoma. We'll have Gage back on Friday for the pregame show, so we'll get all our predictions and stuff in there. But yeah, Gage, anything else before we get out of here, bub?
No, just the same reminder I've been putting out to Texas fans is enjoy this team because I do, even though I'm a little bit more, on the nervous, shaky side right now because of what just happened on Saturday. Enjoy this team because this team is really good, and even the points about the secondary like haven't been tested. Like, you still got a really good veteran players that are going to have this team ready to play, and I'm super excited for this Saturday and what this team's going to show. And even though all the pressure in the world is on Texas coming into this game, like just enjoy it. Just enjoy this team. Like we deserve to have a good football team and watch them win. So I know people will be mad I said deserve, but screw you. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't even care, man. And yeah, like that's not even me. Right? And I know you're not taking this from what I said, Gage, but like, it's not to say that I don't think Texas' secondary will stand up and pass those tests with flying
No.
colors.
Yeah.
It's just I want to see it all, man. I want to see everything about it. That was a really bad pick by Dak Prescott. Anybody watching the old Cowboys and Steelers right now on Sunday Night Football, don't hate to see it, to be honest. But sorry if that offends any Cowboy fans in the chats. But
What's the score? I've got the Dodgers game on. I'm watching the Dodgers get just annihilated. So
that's good to hear. It's about to go to the half. It's 6-3 Dallas. I mean, they are
what a game.
there was the field's a slop fest. There was rain and hell.
Yeah.
I mean, it had like an hour and a half delay. But guys, I appreciate everybody watching, checking in. Please, if you're watching on Twitter, do me the big favor of going to my profiles and following that link in the bio to the Ghost and Friends YouTube channel. Like this video for Gage. Show some love for him. Subscribe to the channel. Got a lot of fun things planned on here. Can't wait to do it all. But yeah, and if you're on YouTube, like this video, make it easy. Show Gage some love. He's doing a great job every time he comes on. Yeah, we'll talk to everybody soon. Crazy weekend in the college football world, especially in the SEC. And next week was supposed to be the big week that everybody looked up to. This was supposed to be like this very tiny, small little appetizer for next week. And so hang on to your hats, man. Anything can happen, it seems, in 2020, or in 2024 in the college football world. Shout out the portal. Shout out NIL. Thanks for being here, Maverick. It means a lot. All right, Gage, sign us off, brother.
It's 10:04.
And OU still sucks. Have a good one, guys.